has been a little difficult. And when I say loosening up my approach, I mean like loosening up how I make my first, mark on the paper. And one of the things that I found that has been helpful with that has been chunky materials. So I first started off with chunky pencils, and I don't necessarily like use these as much anymore, but I still like them like when I'm trying to just quickly color or make some marks. And this is a whole set of these like multicolored color pencils. I really like these, so I bought a full set, and they are bigger than a regular size pencil, right? So just a little bit more chunky than a color pencil. Um, so I started off with these because these were a lot of fun. One, because, they give different color marks, but I also really enjoyed them because they were really chunky, and I really enjoyed the looseness of these as well. So maybe you want to start with some pencils that are chunky if this idea of using chunky materials to help with loosening you up sounds appealing. The next thing that I did was look into highlighters. So I started with, let's see, orange. Yeah, I started with the orange Stabilo Boss highlighters. Um, I saw these and I thought that they were really cute, because usually you just see the typical, highlighters in the store. And so I saw these and I'm like, oh, those are cute and they're chunky. So initially, like, this was my first one. I got this orange one, and I really liked the matteness of it as well. Um, and then I bought a replacement one, and then bought some other ones to kind of try the colors out. And so maybe you want to check out like some different kind of highlighters that maybe aren't fluorescent, and I'll show you the difference in what a fluorescent, highlighter, the difference in this. So Stabilo has these really nice like matte colors. And again, the handle for these is really chunky, and I really like the chisel tip as well. That's something else that um, I started looking more into chisel tip markers, because I really like that you can start off with a thin line and then go to like a really chunky one, depending on how chiseled how big, the chisel tip is. So I'm trying to make sure that I stay in the frame as well. Okay, and then this, so I bought a fluorescent pink one. And so this is clearly the difference between like the matte. That's the best way that I can describe that. How would y'all describe that? Is this matte to you? This is matte to me. So I like the fact that the Stabilo highlighter line had the option between like matte colors and then clearly, the regular fluorescent kind of colors. So that also might be helpful as well, when you are trying to loosen up how you approach your marks. Um, what attracts you to particular materials, right? And so usually I like pretty matte muted colors with pops of neon. And so, yeah, I decided to try these. Okay, so this is the second chunky material. The third chunky material that I purchased as well are these Lyra water soluble graphite crayons, basically. And this is a 2B, and they come in different um, darkness grades, right? So, it goes from like 2B to 9B. And I think 2B is not like where it starts. It starts at like H. H is in Harry, B is in boy, and then goes up to either 9 or 10, B is in boy, right? So I saw these and wanted to try them as well because I like graphite. And yeah, I wanted to try it in this crayon form. And so this is fun as well. I hold it differently. Like I hold chunky materials differently. It feels like that with smaller materials it's tight, like I'm holding it a little bit tighter in my hand. So the marks that I make show up tighter, right? But because these materials are chunky, it forces me, like I don't have to think about adjusting the way that I hold the material so that I get different marks because, intellectually I know that, right? That if you just hold something smaller in a different way, right? If you don't hold it in the center, if you hold it closer towards the end, it'll give you looser marks. But I'm so socialized to hold smaller things at the center that I have to remind myself to do that. And I don't do that all the time. But with chunkier materials, I just automatically hold that particular material differently. Right? Let's see. Just so y'all can see how this activates and brush. I really, really like these Lyra water soluble graphite crayons. They go down really nicely and you can shade them out really interestingly. Um, Once these highlighters dry, you can go over them pretty easily with any kind of material. So that's okay. So that's this one. So we're at, let's see, this is number 3. Okay, number 4 is, I was talking about the chisel tip, right, of the Stabilo highlighters. Okay, so that's what the chisel tip on this looks like. And so I also bought, you can get a Sharpie permanent marker and a chisel tip. So this one is chunky in a different way. Like usually the Sharpie markers, and of course I'm not gonna see a regular Sharpie marker. They're just shaped, like how regular markers are shaped, but because this one is a chisel tip, it just automatically has a chunkier handle to it. And so that's what I really like about this one is that it's not just the same size as a regular Sharpie marker. It's a chunkier shape to it because of the chisel tip. And let's see, let's turn this paper this way. The chisel marker, again, the same thing. You can start off with, like this really thin line, and then as you like draw, whatever the image is that you may be putting down, you can get varied lines with this one tool, right? So that's also something to consider, like what kind of tip the marker has. Um, so that's what that one looks like. Okay. Hello. Okay. The other thing to consider about chunky materials is I just mentioned the tip of the tool, right? And so this is a chisel tip. There's a brush tip, a nib tip, a chisel tip, right? And then with the different kinds of markers, you can get varied I need a sip of coffee, sorry. With the different size markers, they vary in how big they are. And so this is like one of the larger size markers. This is not a 2.5. This is, I think, a 5 Montana marker. And this is like the burnished copper color. Um, I usually like to buy the same color and different materials. And so, like, this is the burnished copper in this Blick matte acrylic paint. So I also bought something very similar, a similar color in this Montana marker. And let's see, I'll show y'all what this looks like. You got to shake it up because it separates. This is one of those markers, and I don't use it often because it's very juicy. I use it for like the end of my images to like add the pops of color. But this is one of those markers that they use in like graffiti, like outside kind of art, or public art, right? Things that are going on buildings and things like that, like large, really large canvases. And so that's what the top of this looks like. And so it just lays down so much color. And I just love this like copper. Let's see. I'm running out of paper. This like copper color, right? So that also may be, pretty interesting if you are trying to oh, see this, and this thing leaks at times as well. All of that just came out of the top. So this is another option if you're interested in like chunky materials and loosening things up as well. Is to buy like a 5 mm size marker and see how that goes. See the different marks that it can lay down. Yeah, and if you like that and the looseness that that creates. Um, Continuing with different kinds of markers and chunkier markers. So I mentioned that this marker is a 5 mm. And then these are the Faber-Castell Pit Artist Pens Big Brushes. And these are 2.5 mm. So this is the next size that's smaller than the 5. And these make really nice marks as well. Let me show y'all. I really like these Pit Artist big brush pens. I really just like this color too. The deep red. And then the black, it's just black. But again, makes a really nice mark. Right. And this is what a brush tip looks like. We talked about the nib or the bullet nib. And then this one has a bullet nib as opposed to a brush nib. But when I purchased it, it came broken. So I've only been able to use this a little bit, and this doesn't go on top of this very well. Let me rub this off. So this is also an option to buy bigger markers as well, as opposed to, let's say, like this is a Shinhan marker, and this is what the brush tip looks like, right? So just a little bit smaller. But my point in showing y'all this marker in comparison to these two is that if you are looking for looser strokes, something that helps you to be more intentional about making a loose stroke without having, you to prompt yourself, to trigger yourself to think about holding it in a different way, a bigger, chunkier item or tool might help you with just automatically doing that, right? And then this is another one. This is oil-based opaque metallic paint marker. I really like this as well for a pop of color. And this one is another chisel tip. I really like, clearly, the marks that chisel tips make. And this is like a rose gold kind of color. Do y'all see a theme? And it's one of those pump things as well. And so it makes a pretty similar color. Let's see. Let's flip this around. It makes a pretty similar color to like the burnished copper, but it's more rosy as opposed to brown. Um, so, yep, this is another one that I have, another marker that I have in my toolkit that I use for pops of color. But then also, I just really like this chisel tip. And it's kind of running out of ink at this point, or oil-based paint, but I think y'all get the point of that one. So those are the different chunky materials that I have in my toolkit that have been helpful for me to loosen up my approach to art. Let me know if you've tried any of these, what you think. If you are checking this video out after I end the live, definitely like the video. Please leave a comment. I would greatly appreciate it. This is a part of a series. This is video number 5, so definitely check out the other videos in my mixed media starter kit series. If you are looking for not only other supplies, but other ways to build your toolkit. Yeah, definitely like the video, y'all. Thank you so much. See you on the next one.